Hello, this is Dieter from Retro Gaming, and today I wanted to talk to you about another idea that I had. Of course, it's about Astroneer, and something that I started doing during the holiday cheer event, that was the 2020 holiday cheer event, where some of the rewards were silicone, and I didn't know what to do with silicone. What I started doing is I started building shelters. And here you see an example of a couple of shelters that I built with the rewards from the event on Glacial. So you see, it was actually a lot of fun, right? There's a lot of different arrangements that you can make, and it makes for great screenshots, right? So after the event, I also realized that the shelters give 1 power each. So it's sort of like a replacement for RTGs, if you so want. Since the shelters only need plastic and silicone, they're relatively easy to build if you have methane available. So I went to Novus, which is another planet other than Atrox that has methane, and I built 233 of them. You see this here from orbit. There's quite a few of them, right? So I built a little city there on Novus. So I had this idea, hey, shelters are great, right? But maybe we can have other buildings in the game. So the idea is of having decorative buildings. They don't necessarily do anything, that just look nice, you know? So that's what I was conceptualizing. And here's some decorative buildings, just some concept art, right? To let your imagination go. There is lots of possibilities here. And again, they don't have to give power. They don't have to give the oxygen. Maybe they don't even have to make soil around them. Although I think that is really useful, because the shelters make like a little bit of soil, and they make a bubble around them that they clear out from soil. So if you build a shelter inside a little cave, it will make a nice bubble in that cave. And in my videos, I demo that as well. So here's some ideas just to get your mind going on this. Here's something like a habitat, right? So not just a shelter, but this is actually living quarters, right? And of course, I got those pictures from the internet just to show, to illustrate what I'm talking about when I'm talking about decorative buildings. Here's another one where we are looking at hydroponics, right? And maybe these decorative buildings have different capabilities, like hydroponics could give oxygen but not power, something like that. And the habitat would allow you to save your game, just like the shelter does, but it doesn't do anything else. It doesn't give power. It doesn't, maybe it does give oxygen, or it doesn't give oxygen, right? But that's sort of like the concept. Here's another one, a communications array. It's just a big antenna, right? It literally doesn't do anything. Maybe later in the game, these items could have a purpose, but in the beginning, they just look nice. It's a different view. You can build a city and have sort of different buildings in the city other than shelters, right? Just shelters is a little bit monotone. So here's another building where we have a storage hangar. Not super sure what that does. Maybe you can even store some resources in it, or maybe it does nothing. That's perfectly fine, right? Just to show some futuristic designs of decorative buildings. Here's another one. That one, I'm pretty sure does absolutely nothing. It's just kind of like an archway, right? Like an Arc de Triomphe. Something that you build and you show it to your friends, and in the game it just looks cool. Other than that, maybe it doesn't do anything, right? And so that's my idea, right? And then maybe you can even combine multiple buildings, but it's not necessary, right? It's perfectly fine if you just position them right next to each other, and they just look nice, right? But of course, combining multiple buildings is an option that we have as well, right? So how would decorative buildings work in the game, right? That's sort of like, you have the concept, you have the idea. Now, how do you introduce it into the game? With relatively little effort for the developers and the designers, right? Obviously, the buildings have to be designed, and they will have certain, like, snap in features that Astroneer is well known for. So one idea that I had here is you can go to Exo Outfitters and you can actually buy the plans for the decorative buildings, right? And so I just have an example here, right, of Exo Outfitters, and everyone is very familiar with how this works, right? So maybe this is how Exo Outfitters would then present these buildings, right? And again, it's all decorative, right? So this is end game, right? This is not for like beginner players, right? This is not for someone who is just trying out the game. This is for people that really like Astroneer and they want those buildings in the game, right? So you see here that the archway there is 2,500, right? So that's about $25, right? So if you want this, you have to pay for it, and then it's also open to the developers, right? Um, you definitely get the plans, right? That is what it does. But maybe you still need to research that item. That is also an option, right? And so I demonstrated that here, where you have this decorative building, the archway, right? And it has some kind of description. I basically overlaid some other things. So there's resources that you need to build that building, and the resources can be, I think the large printer makes up to 4 resources that it requires, right? So you can be creative. It can be, of course, nanocarbon alloy, right? Maybe for the archway, or it's something simpler like resin and compound or something like that, or silicone and plastic, something like this, right? But you also see here in this example that this archway requires 1 million research bytes, right, to unlock. So that is also an option that we have, that while you do get the plan, so it basically gets added to your PDA in the game, you still need to research that item, right? So again, this is sort of like for end game, right? For players that do YouTube streams, that or just interested in building cool things, making videos or taking screenshots, right? That kind of thing. So that is how I envisioned we can introduce the decorative buildings, and that's all I had. Now, again, I think it is another venue of revenue for System Era, right? Because we have all the other items like the suits and the helmets, the visors, and the hats, and all those kind of things in the game. Decorative buildings could be something that really appeals to the creators, the people who want to build things, right? And we have seen this on YouTube, right? And on Reddit, that people make racetracks, and they have like really fancy structures that they built out of soil, right? But instead of doing it out of soil, because that's it always looks sort of like the same. It looks a little bit like a room or a dungeon or something like that, right? Here now, System Era has actually the opportunity to build something in the game that is actually potentially increasing the revenue as well. So that's really all that I had for today. Thanks for watching, and make sure to check my channel and my playlist for ideas, because by now I have quite a few of those. So thanks again. You guys take care. Bye.